All right, let me know if you can hear me. By all accounts, I've got green lights. I'm not, no, we're all good here. So, so today's Try and Shield Q&A. We had a question come in from one of our from a couple of our viewers. One of them was basically asking a hypothetical about barricading. And with barricading, we typically get questions or pictures of, hey, here's a picture of my master bedroom or my classroom or my church. How would we barricade this? And we do our best to answer the questions. But this was a different type of hypothetical. This was a hypothetical that was asking if I would ever recommend someone, instead of barricading to keep an attacker out, instead barricading to try to keep an attacker in. And I said, well, my answer was every one of these situations has countless basic variables. It depends on the situation. But if you could lock or trap an active shooter in a room where they could not do any harm to anyone else, absolutely, I would recommend that. And another viewer that we had a significant problem with that, and alerted me that he was on a school safety team, and that under no circumstances would any security expert ever recommend trapping an activist shooter or an active assailant in a space and barricading them in a space. And that, wanted to clarify because he was sure I was going to change my answer. I'm not going to change my answer. If you can ever barricade, and it's going to be a very unique structure or room or circumstance. For example, if an active shooter is in a bank and you can lock him in a vault and he can't get out and harm anyone, why wouldn't you do that? This is called thinking outside the box. This is what we need to do in unwinnable situations. This is what we need to do, outside of the ridiculousness of just run, hide, fight. Or lockdown at all costs, which is what so many schools teach. Far, 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 far too many schools that can't be locked down. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're a school that was built in the 50s, that's cinder block and concrete and solid core doors and small windows with wire mesh across them and plenty of furniture in them, you can barricade those classes. You can lock them down and do a really good job and save a lot of lives. If you're one of these feng shui classrooms that were developed in the 70s, like in the school I went to in Boston, where in my elementary school, all 9 classrooms could see each other because there was no walls and no doors for every floor, you can't lock that down. And this lockdown crutch that so many businesses, schools, churches teach is going to cost countless lives because no one is able to look at things and see if they pass the common sense test. We have to be better than that. We have to realize that if you're in a school that's all glass, if you're in an office that's all glass, or you're in an auditorium and an active shooter starts in that auditorium or inside your building, which they usually do, very rarely do they start outside, that lockdown is a lie if you can't lock down. Your only option is to get out or fight. And that's the cold, hard truth of it. And I'm sorry that a lot of schools don't have the guts to do that. Far too many times, often I travel the country and I see schools and I consult with companies, and there's no way to lock them down. So some of the things that I come up with them for answers is saying you need to find a space on each floor that you can harden to if you want to make a lockdown or a shelter in place room. That makes sense if you can make one and get people in there. But not every classroom, again, can that be done, and not every building can be done that. One of the other questions that was asked was, someone shared an article again of one of these ridiculous unannounced active shooter drills. And in my opinion, under no circumstances should you ever do an unannounced active shooter drill. They're careless, they are reckless, and they cost people, they risk people's lives. They risk, people might be willing to jump out of windows. People might be willing, they're going to destroy property if they're properly trained on how to barricade, because they think they're being told that someone's there that wants to kill them and is actively killing people. So these unannounced active shooter drills are reckless in the extreme and destroy all credibility and shouldn't be done. They also cause false positives, meaning that people will report, they'll see it, they'll call 911, and now you have first responders responding or other outside people, good Samaritans who are trying to go save their kids because some idiot school administrator or business administrator thought it was smart to do an unannounced active shooter drill. So, as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this. The standards of training out there and the people who sometimes do this line of work, are pretty terrible. So under no circumstances should you do an unannounced active shooter drill, period. All right. Back to the other question. If you can lock an active assailant or barricade an active assailant in a contained space away from people, 100% do that. I want to be crystal clear. 100%, if you can lock an active shooter into a room or into a freezer, into a vault, into some kind of unique structure where you can isolate them and they can do no further harm, for the love of God, do it. All right. So I hope that's clear. I hope that, everyone out there understands that now. And we have to think out of the box. There's billions of variables in these active assailant situations. We have to think out of the box. We have to think critically, and we can't just this is not arithmetic, it's calculus. And you have to understand that. For anyone who thinks they're on a safety team in a school and thinks they're a subject matter expert, you're not. All right. It takes, decades and decades and decades of experience in living this stuff day in and day out. You have to understand weapon systems, explosives, wall composition, door composition, psychology, a whole bunch of different factors that come into this, as well as injuries, medical, ballistics, and so on. So I'm glad you're thinking about it, and I want you to continue thinking about it. But you got to think outside the box. Scripted responses to these things don't always work. There's too many variables. You're not dealing with a non-thinking entity. You're thinking with a countering, thinking, evil mind that is going to try to hurt either a specific individual or as many individuals as they possibly can. So I hope that was clear. If there's any questions out there, I'd happy to answer them for you. While I'm on air, I'll talk about a recent event that I think is absolutely catastrophic. As I saw that Baltimore just voted to disarm their school police officers. And I can't think of a more foolish thing to do. They have to put their guns in a locker when they go into a school. Why in God's green earth would you disarm a trusted person, a police officer, the good guys, the person who's there to stop the bad guys with a firearm, and do that? It's really, we really have to get our politics out of our security solutions. All right. Too often our security solutions or our answers to these challenging questions get wrapped up in politics. And I'm going to exaggerate slightly. Some of you have heard me say this before. If you're on the right end of the spectrum, you think everyone should have a rocket launcher in their back pocket. If you're on the left end of the spectrum, you want to uninvent vehicles, firearms, knives, forks, and turn everything into a Nerf spork world where no one can be hurt. Neither one of those are going to happen. All right. Instead, we have to start thinking rationally and logically. All right. So that is training and that is infrastructure spending. All right. And that's what we're going to have to do if we want to make our kids and our, ourselves and our families safer. So, again, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'd be happy to answer them. I see we got 3 people watching right now, and I know that this was an unannounced one, and I hope I answered your questions. Okay. Now you're chilling. Okay. All right. Standard SOP in hotel security in Vegas hotels. Okay. So, somebody put up there, I guess there was an L bracket done on the 32nd floor to try to lock, to prevent the door from opening. And did I think security would do that? I would hope security would do that, because by locking them up on the 32nd floor, they're keeping everyone safer below that and above that, and it allows law enforcement to trap the individual. Now, we all know there was an awful lot wrong done in Vegas. We really do. And, some unforgivable mistakes were done there. But again, thinking outside of the box, is not one of them. All right. So remember, this is not addition and subtraction. All right. This is calculus. You have to understand this problem in all three dimensions, in all 360 degrees, so that you can make an informed decision. And only a professional is going to be able to give that, a true professional. All right. So I hope this made a lot of sense. I love doing Q&A. I love doing live Q&A. I'm not afraid to answer hard questions at any time. Eddie, I know I saw, I've been so busy. I saw there was some type of gun control question that you had for me. I'd be happy to take that if you want to type it right now. I know that someone on your board had said something about gun control, something like that. And again, I apologize. I didn't get a chance to go over to your board and answer that for you. But if you're here now and you want to do it, I'll be more than happy to do it. But that's all I really got for you. Keep the good questions coming. I appreciate you guys asking those questions. And, I look forward to answering more. Hopefully I'll see you over on Facebook tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Coffee with Trident Shield, where we take questions over there and catch you up on current events and things that are going on with us. So, all right. God bless you. God bless America. Trident Shield out.